Welcome to Florida Focus, a college football podcast. Today is the third annual, count it Chris, 1, 2, 3, third annual Florida Focus Awards. It is my favorite episode of the year. How are you feeling about tonight's award show?
Oh, I'm pumped. I'm excited. Third in a row that I wore my tux to this show. Again, you're right. It's my favorite episode also. Just to kind of recap and give some accolades to the players.
I had to watch a YouTube video on how to tie this bow tie. It is not easy, by the way.
That's how I learned to tie a tie also, YouTube.
Yes, that's so out there for you folks. It's there.
Yeah.
We are bedazzled tonight.
Mm-hmm.
The red carpet is out. It is time to give away some awards. We actually have 5 awards to give out, Chris, and it wasn't easy to do that. But here are the categories for the Florida Focus Awards, third annual: Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Special Teams Player of the Year, Best Game of the Year, and the Fresh Face Award. So that last one, don't get too worried on the title. Florida Focus Fresh Face Award. It just is what it is after the fourth power. But some good candidates here. And, tell me, Chris, what were some of your criteria and what did you take into account when you put your nominations together for these awards?
To be honest, do they stick out during the whole entire season? And then one thing that kind of, if I was kind of unsure or something that really confirmed what I thought was, I was looking at like the conference all teams, the all conference teams. And that really helped push players maybe up the list or down the list. Getting on the all-conference teams really helps. But players that really had a great season from start to finish was the main thing for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, for me, it was about the competition they played against. So kind of along the same lines as the conference play. This year, amongst others, I really had to take in consideration how many games did they actually play.
Yeah.
And how many stats are we dealing with within that GP category. I had to make a specific category just to remind myself, okay, maybe they're lower because of this. But I also like to take into consideration some intangibles like leadership and things like that. Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, I didn't put too much into the leadership. I'm more of the stats guy. But yeah, it is something to consider, I guess. Were they a good teammate? Could you rally around them? Did they, maybe the stats didn't show out, but were they making a difference when you watched the game? Were they a difference maker for their team?
Yep, you nailed it. And that's why they're deserving of these awards. So for our fans and community and listeners, the way that Chris and I kind of broke this down is we have between 4 and 6 finalists for each award, depending on who got points and who made the list between our semifinalists and finalists. And we put our heads together, used a pretty unbiased point system, and that's how we came up with the winners. So there you go. I think we should start off with a bang, Chris. The Offensive Player of the Year should be the first award, right?
Yeah, because this season was all about offense. So, yeah, it would be fitting that they go first.
You know it. Okay, hang on. Let me get the envelope here. All right. Thank you. Okay, that was a pretty smooth handoff. All right, whenever you're ready, go ahead and open it and list the winner.
We're going to list off who the nominees are?
Yes, of course. I get so excited, man.
I'm
sorry. All right. So we have our 5 finalists here for Offensive Player of the Year. Let's, of course, talk about who might be in the envelope. In no particular order, we have Kyle Pitts, tight end from Florida. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback for UCF. Kyle Trask, quarterback for UF. Kadarius Toney, wide receiver / running back / returner. And Marlon Williams, wide receiver for UCF.
Yeah, for this, obviously, 3 guys from Florida, and if you watched any Florida game, the offense was clicking. The defense definitely had its woes, but the offense was clicking. A lot of guys that you thought might be good were now great. There's some other guys, too, that didn't make the list, like Trevon Grimes might have been able to slip on this list here. But so 3 Gators, and then obviously Dylan Gabriel thrown to a guy like Marlon Williams. But Dylan Gabriel just elevated his game as well.
Absolutely. I mean, UF clearly had the best offense in the country, so no surprise they have 3 out of the 5 finalists. Trask, the leader of that. Pitt's just amazing breakout season. Tony is that Swiss Army knife guy, the go-go gadget, and he was very dangerous. But yes, UCF's offense was potent as it always is, moving the ball, moving fast tempo. Marlon Williams, the biggest part of that on the receiving end, but Dylan Gabriel, of course, feeding the ball to him. So all of these guys deserving of the nomination.
Yeah, and so Kadarius Toney was a finalist for the Paul Hornung Award for the most versatile player. Obviously, Trask was the finalist for the Heisman. Pitts was the Mackey Award winner. Yes. So a lot of, obviously I'm a Florida guy, so just the fact that Florida players, especially on offense, are actually getting awards and being nominated for awards is something we haven't seen in a long time at UF.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that. That's true.
Yeah. So, but I would love to have. I mean, if this was, a starting offense for you, Trask and Gabriel as your quarterbacks, and then those two guys are receiver and Pitts your tight end, you're gonna win some games.
Man,
say that.
Untouchable almost.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So the envelope I've already handed you. I apologize. I got jumped the gun there a little earlier.
That's
Whenever you're ready.
You got to go excited. Okay, so let me open this up. Okay, so the winner, Florida Focus Podcast, Offensive Player of the Year, Kyle Trask, quarterback, Florida.
Woohoo! Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Not too much of a surprise. I mean, if you finish fourth in the Heisman, you're probably going to win.
Yeah.
And this guy, just his story, obviously, everyone's heard the story, right? So I'm not going to get into the story. But I'm still just amazed of what he did. Yes, he had weapons. He had the Mackey Award winner in Pitts. And, but just what he has done, elevating his game. Dan Mullen continues to be the quarterback whisperer.
Yep.
And this guy just had a great season. And in middle of the season, he was leading the Heisman talk, after that Georgia game and after that Arkansas game. So he dropped a little bit, but still, for a Florida quarterback to finish fourth in the Heisman, that is just amazing considering of all the quarterbacks we've had post Tebow. He's up there and kind of makes you wonder, where is he all-time quarterback, And I have to think about that some more, where he would line up all-time. But for this award show, he wins the Offensive Player of the Year.
Absolutely. Out of the 7 schools, it was by far the best player. Out of 12 games, he had 4,200 passing yards, 43 touchdowns, which led the nation. Only 8 interceptions, and a lot of those were just late in the season in the 3 losses that UF had, and had other extenuating up to the last 3 games. I think he only had 2 or 3. Not to mention he had 3 rushing touchdowns and 50 rushing yards. He did take some sacks late in the year, but again, that's against LSU and Bama, and so this is an amazing season, and to lead the nation in 2 categories, that's just jaw dropping. Plus, a guy that finishes off the year and plays 12 game slate. That's also something you just don't see a lot in the COVID season, and that's why he deserves the award.
Yeah, and breaking those records against all SEC teams is a huge feat. Now, I know the SEC defenses are across the board. We're definitely behind, especially Florida's. But I think a factor that really played into it, not to knock Trask, but Florida's run game just was non-existent. So that really played into the passing game and really helped boost his numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, he couldn't have an off game, really. And then when that did happen, we see the result on the scoreboard.
Right.
So, yeah, very good points. In the upper echelon of Florida, I mean, he has to be top 10 at least.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
so
that's I mean, you could make – I bet there's people putting him top 5. I mean, wow. I think he's up there.
How about that? Mm-hmm. So that'll be a fun one to discuss later on. I like that.
Right.
Like that topic. So Chris, I actually had Kadarius Toney. I voted him number 2 on this list because he was so dangerous and such a threat to score. He had 11 total touchdowns, one of them rushing, 10 receiving, and we'll talk about his special teams contribution later. But this is a guy you literally had to scheme your entire defense for, and that's why I put him so high on my list.
Yeah. I put him actually lower on my list, and I mean, I probably should have put him higher, but they had a couple of games in the middle of the season where he kind of, especially that Georgia game, he played the game, but I mean, Georgia, I don't think they what was going on, but they took him out of the game. So there's a couple of games where he was a non-factor. So that's kind of why he bumped it down. But,
Okay.
I mean, he used to be just the wildcat guy, end-around guy, but now he was a true receiver. And I don't know how many – I have to go back and look, but how many ankles he has broken during the season has to be some kind of record or close.
Should have put that on the stat sheet, yeah.
Yeah, for real. I mean, he's gotten talks to comparisons to Percy Harvin, which is some high praise. And I think it's warranted, honestly. So, yeah, fantastic season by him. Yeah, and so maybe I should have put him a little higher. And Pitts, I mean, I put him higher just because he won the tight end of the year award. But I guess you're right. There are some games he just didn't play at all because of injury. So that maybe should have bumped him down a bit.
Pitts still caught 43 passes in the 8 games he did play and 12 touchdowns. He had a long of 71. I mean, you just don't see tight ends catching passes that long. And line up as a wide receiver. Wasn't he, correct me if I'm wrong, the first tight end ever nominated for the Bletnikoff Award, which is a wide receiver award?
Right.
That's
which
insane.
is ridiculous.
Yeah. And he deserved it, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, tight ends, corners, safeties, not tight ends, linebackers, should say. Whatever position was lining up against him, there was a mismatch there.
He was beating them.
And even Alabama. I mean, you saw the catches he was making against Alabama, the eventual national champion. I mean, yeah, he was phenomenal.
Yep. Plenty of game film, best tight end going in the draft. By far. I had Dylan Gabriel third. What stood out to me about him was 32 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions the entire year.
Really? I didn't realize that
Yeah,
stat.
a little bit more of a runner, 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. But he did take 22 sacks, so I kind of digged in a little bit for that.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, really, there's so many other players that we could have. You could argue could take that 4th, 5th spot.
Yep. We put Marlon Williams there because he caught 71 which again, he caught 71.
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney caught 70.
Yeah.
So just look at, I mean, their numbers are comparable, but Toney had other places on the field, and Williams went for 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, and it's a what's the phrase I'm looking for? It's an embarrassment of riches, where Florida has so much talent in the entire state. You're like, okay, well, my second or third team could be your first team,
Yeah. That's something we should do maybe in the future is have a all Florida team.
Yeah.
Like who would make that list? That'd be maybe we'll table that for the future.
That'd be fun. Well, for our Patreons, we already know that we did the all 2000s team for Florida State and Florida. So we'll maybe expand that a little bit and go a little deeper in the state.
There we go.
Yep. Okay, cool. Well, Kyle Trask, the winner of the 2020 season Florida Focus Offensive Player of the Year. Well deserving.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that is a great wrap-up. Again, great talent for the offensive side of the ball. Let's move over to the defense side of the ball. Our next award, Defensive Player of the Year. And this one was just as tough, if not harder, than the offensive player to pick. Right, Chris?
Yeah, I think there was, although it was maybe less people to choose from, it was definitely harder because, I mean, again, as much as the offense flourished, the defense across the board in the state kind of suffered a bit. So it was kind of, I think, harder. This is probably the hardest category for me to pick through, honestly.
Yep. And unfortunately, we're not going to see a lot of some of the smaller teams. It's going to be dominated by some of the bigger players this year. But, I mean, that's because of stats and the way they present themselves in the field. So, everybody's earned it. So we have limited it down to 5 finalists after a lot of consideration. So in no particular order, we have Kyer Elam, the Gators defensive back, Mohamed Diabate, Gators linebacker, Jalen Phillips, Miami Hurricanes defensive lineman, Bubba Bolden, the Canes safety, and Richie Grant, the Knights defensive back.
Yeah, I think Florida, again, I'm going to go from the Gator perspective. They had a lot of guys that were hyped up going into the season, did not live up to the hype, and that was definitely our weakness. But still managed to have some players make the list. Miami, obviously, is going to represent on the defensive side of the ball. And Jalen Phillips filling in for, was it Rousseau? I
Yeah.
think was the guy who opted out. He took his spot and his jersey number and did a fantastic job. And Bolden, of course, the anchor of the secondary, and Richie Grant, phenomenal season for the Knights. And as much as I think he kind of got overshadowed a little bit with how much Dylan Gabriel was doing on the offense, but phenomenal season there in the backfield for the Knights.
Yeah, for the Knights, one of the strengths of their secondary, and that's the reason why it was tough to pass against them. Mm-hmm. You mentioned with Bolden and Phillips together, this is just great coaching with Manny Diaz and bringing a guy in and continuing to put pressure on the offenses they play. They do a fantastic job. But again, you're right, with Diabate and Elam, man, it is hard to get anywhere and get anything done because they cause a lot of havoc. I know that there were some woes in the middle of the season, but those are two of the guys that really carried them through those struggles and continue to keep them in all the close games, and the reason why they had such a great year they did.
Yeah, especially Diabate coming in late in the season. You heard his name more and more and more throughout the games.
Yep. Fantastic list. All right. Well, without further ado, Chris, let me go ahead and pass you the envelope here for our winner.
Thank you. Let's see what's in it. All right. So the winner, Florida Focus Podcast Defensive Player of the Year, Richie Grant, UCF defensive back.
Boom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. This guy he wreaked havoc, right?
Yeah.
3.5 tackles for loss, 72 total, 6 pass breakups, 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and he was a National Jim Thorpe Award finalist.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy was everywhere and did everything.
Yeah, and All-American too, right?
Yeah.
He was definitely the anchor there. Definitely a bright spot for them. And I think the stats are pretty decent, like we were talking before off air. Decent, but just like the fact that he's an All-American, the fact that he was a finalist for the best defensive back, that's what pushed it over the edge for me to push him up top of the list, and he definitely deserves it.
Yeah, and this was one it was clear he was probably number one, but what put him up there and solidified that in my mind was his leadership skills, because UCF had a few guys on the defensive side of the ball get let go of the team about midway through, and he just continued to carry them on and still played 9 games and still made sure they had a successful season, not as much as they would have liked by their own standards, but get him to a decent bowl and still be a finalist for that award. There's some media saying he deserved it and he was gypped, but there are some other good finalists out there, and he gets the Florida Focus Award at least. So I hope he takes that recognition and moves forward.
As he should.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we were comparing our list, I was not high on any of the Florida guys at all. Maybe because I'm just bitter and upset of how they played and especially how it ended. But I had Diabate and Kyer Elam low. Although Kyer Elam did make the first team All-SEC. And it's weird, like you watch it and he's like, oh, it was good. But the stats, 11 pass breakups. He had a couple of interceptions there. Mm-hmm. So I guess he was all right. But I was kind of low on the Gators there.
I actually had him a little higher. But the 11 pass breakups to me was the biggest thing. Outside of that, didn't have a whole lot to go off of. I like Jalen Phillips. When you get in the backfield and get 8 sacks in the season, that's definitely going to put you high on my list. But Diabate's overall performance was what stuck out to me. 67 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, a pick, and a pass breakup. That's just a guy that's athletic, and so you can't ignore it.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those guys that kind of looks like the body of the safety, but playing linebacker and your classic, was it tweener, like in between positions. Nice. So very athletic, kind of undersized, but very athletic.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. But Grant, he's the winner, and he definitely deserves it and stuck out across the state.
I was going to make a joke about him being head and shoulders above the rest, but given his stature, I probably won't do that.
Probably not going to happen.
Yeah. But he deserves the trophy from us this year nonetheless. So,
yeah.
All right, man, what a list. So, Going on, we got another award. I got so many trophies over here, Chris. I don't know what to do with them.
You should start a trophy shop.
Yes, yeah.
That's what you should.
And the invitation stands every year. The winner of this award can always come on the show and accept it. We would love to have him on.
Yeah, exactly. It's an open invitation. So if you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that won, Tell them.
Yes. It's a free trophy. Who would say no?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on. What is the other facet of the ball that never gets forgotten, especially by me? Special teams. So we have Special Teams Player of the Year. So for the 2020 season, we have a couple finalists. Let me list these off real quick before I hand you the envelope. Lou Hedley, punter for Miami. Kadarius Toney, returner for UF. Jose Borregales, kicker from Miami. I practiced that one a lot. Mm-hmm. And Lexington Joseph, Panthers from the return team. So how about this? Someone not UF finally on a list.
Yeah.
And not from UCF too.
McPherson, man. Yeah. I think he won the last two, right?
He did, and he was on my semifinalist list and didn't make the final cut, and I told you why a month ago, and I don't want to relive that memory, so I want to move on from this. This is sad.
Yeah, and that's fine too. But let's talk about the guys that did make it.
Sure.
So two UM guys, and UM really, they had some players. They had some good games. They probably didn't finish the way they wanted to finish, obviously, but they have some really good guys step up on the special teams, and Hedley and Borregales from FIU, if I'm correct. I believe he's from FIU.
Lexington Joseph is, yeah.
No, I think Borregales transferred from FIU.
Oh, yeah, you're correct. Yeah. Sorry.
But yeah, Joseph, great dynamic returner from FIU, and Kadarius Toney filling in the spot of Swain from last year, and he had a pretty decent year. Nothing fancy except that one nice return against Kentucky. But he was definitely a solid guy in the returns, and didn't fumble or anything like that. So a lot of special guys on this list.
Hey. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. Borregales coming and making a difference immediately is huge. Hedley, we've talked about him. I think he even made a finalist list a year or two ago. Deservedly so. Good average there. Toney again, obviously he makes our finalist list for Offensive Player of the Year, and look at him here. Another finalist for special teams this time, just because how dangerous he is. But Lexington Joseph, not to be overlooked for the Panthers. Right. How about that? A guy who made a difference and was an anchor for the special teams unit there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think, speaking of multiple nominations, I think Borregales was nominated last year, or a finalist last year.
Pretty sure. You have to go check on that. Good call.
Yeah. So 2 different teams. So you're pretty good.
Indeed. Maybe we haven't seen the last of him. A little teaser. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. But without further ado, let me go and hand you the envelope here for the award, and I'll let you open it.
All right. Thank you. And here we go. And the winner, Florida Focus Podcast Special Teams Player of the Year, the one and only Jose Borregales, kicker from Miami.
Booyah. Man, what a difference this guy made right away.
Yep.
And, he even had a game day special, 20 of 22 on field goals this season. Perfect on PATs, 37 out of 37. And just to throw in something extra special for you, he had 1 rushing yard this year.
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
He was actually, I think, either a semifinalist or finalist for the Lou Groza Kicker of the Year award in the nation. So this guy really had it going on, and he had his skill set figured out.
Oh yeah, and he had his face paint game on point too. It covered 3/4 of his face, was just that tape there. But and he's also really good at kicking. So
yeah,
congratulations.
Yep, I actually had Toney second on this list as well. 11 punt returns and 1 touchdown. He actually had 7 kickoff returns, and he averaged 22 yards, which is just pretty good. I had Lou Hedley, the punter at Miami, third. 49 punts. He averaged 47.2 and had a long of 60. Lexington Joseph, again of the Panthers. He actually had a return for a touchdown, and even just 1 puts the guy on my list because of how hard it is to do. Yeah. And he had 368 yards, 33-yard average.
Mm-hmm. And, I've seen a couple memes, but talk about the special teams room with Borregales and Hedley. And they got some ink, man. That's a lot of ink between the two of them.
Absolutely.
Hedley's arms and Borregales' face. It's a lot of ink.
So, I mean, as you can see, we've got the talent here. We've got the skill set, especially for the Canes. The defense, two other players made our top 5. They had 2, including the winner of a special teams. They really have some things and some building blocks to go forward with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And with King coming back, I hope he comes back okay from his injury. They have some building blocks, some foundations, key spots going forward.
Yep. So congratulations, Jose Borregales.
Mm-hmm. You say it way better than I do.
I practiced, but it's still not perfect. We got a little ways to go.
Here's the thing. Here's a question. Do you practice in the mirror? Because that's a little bit different.
Didn't go that far. Maybe that's where I messed up.
Okay, good. No. I was going to be worried if the answer was yes.
Might have been the solution, though. I might have gotten it right. But
yeah.
Maybe it's a good thing I didn't go there. We'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm having a blast. Let's keep going, man. I'm ready to give away some more awards. I have 2 left, actually, it turns out.
All right.
So every year, Chris and I give out a Best Game Award, and the criteria for this is simply, did one of the 7 Florida teams play in the game? And, golly, again, this was hard. So this one actually came down to 6 finalists. It was that hard. So in no particular order, here we go. UCF Memphis, UF versus Texas A&M, UF versus LSU, FIU versus Liberty, Florida State versus North Carolina, and UCF versus Tulsa.
Yeah. And the Florida team did not have to win the game. They just had to play in the game.
Correct. Thank you.
And obviously it's better when your team wins, but still some fantastic, entertaining games like we always get. And these games remind you why you watch college football.
There you
go. Nail biters, interesting stuff we have never seen before. Just when you think you've seen everything in college football, you'll get a couple of these games. You're like, nope, haven't seen that one before. So,
yep.
Fun, interesting stuff, man.
Yep. All our finals will actually close scores, but we took other things into consideration, like the skill, the coaching, the environment, right, the intangibles. Chris mentioned that, is there anything original about this contest? And I think a lot of these, if not all of them, had those elements.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. So without further ado, Chris, let me go ahead and pass you the envelope, and you let me know who wins.
All right. The winner, Florida Focus Podcast, best game, UF versus LSU.
Booyah. The Gators go down in the swamp. Well, that was why I voted for it. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
This game had it all, right? It was very uniquely weird.
Goodness. Again, this is one of those, that Tulsa UCF game is stuff I've never seen before. You've seen games like FSU UNC where teams come back wildly at the end and win. But this UF FSU game, I'm calling I'm not FSU. I'm going to call it from now on. I'm patenting this. Anyone can, I guess I'm not patenting it. It's open. You can use this if you want.
Okay.
It's free.
Thank you.
This is now going to be the LSU game.
LSU?
Yeah. Florida fans are going to refer to it from now on as the LSU game. And if they don't, they're wrong. Nice. So just from start to finish, this was weird. This Florida team is kind of reeling a little bit. You throw in this game that because of COVID was moved to later in the year. It was right before the SEC championship game. Florida doesn't want to play this game. Mm-hmm. You're about to play Alabama. Kyle Pitts doesn't play, kind of a lingering injury. Looks like he really wants to be there. LSU is depleted. They don't have a great team. A lot of players not playing. Freshman quarterback. And so everything, it was just so weird. And then LSU's hanging around, and then third quarter you think Florida turns the corner, they score a touchdown, and then comes in the fog. Something out of a Stephen King movie, man.
Yeah.
It rolls in, and once it rolled in, that kind of took away Florida's deep passing game. The cameras were even like, we don't know what to do. So now we're watching it from ground level, which is really odd and weird.
Yes.
I can't remember the sequence of events. You might help me with this. I'm trying to forget. But basically, if Florida stops LSU, we get the ball back. We're going to get the ball back with some time. Trask is going to lead us down and score, or at least get us close enough for a McPherson field goal. So we stop him on third down. Hooray. Hooray, team, right? But Marco Wilson. He's had a rough season. He really has had a rough season. And you really feel bad for the guy up until this point. You felt real bad for the guy until this point. He makes a tackle or makes a tackle for a third down stop. And he grabs the LSU player's shoe and throws it. 15-yard penalty. They make a field goal. We miss a field goal. Heartbreaking. But I can't help but laugh. Like for like a week out. I mean, you cry a little bit, but majority of it is laughing. Just like, did I just watch this game?
Well,
Was this real?
I'm glad to hear you laugh because
is this real life? It was such a strange game, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna lose because we threw a shoe. But I mean, really, if you watch the whole game, LSU really, they were the better team. They wanted it more. Maybe we were the most talented team, but they were the better team that night. They were playing like they wanted to. Kyle Trask I think he threw a pick six in that game.
Yeah.
He had that strange interception where it bounces off Tony's hands, defender's head, back in bounds. Crazy game.
Couldn't script it. No possible way to. And I think what gets lost, you actually nailed that last series. What gets lost in all of that is LSU, the kicker, set a record for longest field goal made on the road or something crazy.
Yeah,
or longest.
It was a good game.
It was either like Swamp history or LSU history or road something. Guy nailed in the fog. I mean, from the camera angle, you're like, you got a perfect shot of what they see. I couldn't see the goalpost. That guy nailed it. And then McPherson, my guy, goes down to a chance to tie it. And credit Trask, he instigates a perfect drive to go back and keep them in the game, despite everything that happened that night. And McPherson, by a couple of feet, lets Gator Nation down.
Yeah. Yeah, it was such a strange. Like the whole game, they were either LSU was leading or it was tied, and you're like, any point we're just gonna separate. And in the third quarter, we did. We threw, I think, a touchdown to screen pass to Tony, who had like 9 catches, 137 yards, and a couple touchdowns. I think that game he was phenomenal. And I thought, oh, this is it. I mean, credit to LSU, they hung around and they wanted it more. But yeah, tough one to watch.
It was definitely, in our opinion, the game of the year because of all those factors. And LSU losing record, literally nothing to play for, and then going to the Swamp and they beat the Gators. And it's a shame that game happened this year because it was great, but there were also a lot of other good games. UCF Memphis and UF Texas A&M both happened this season, and they tied for second in our polls collectively. You know, in the UCF Memphis game, middle of the third quarter, maybe earlier than that, both teams decided special teams. What is that? They stopped punting. They stopped kicking extra points. The only thing they did special teams related was actually kicking off deep. Nothing else made sense to them, and they just kept going at it and at it and at it. And special teams actually is what cost UCF the game. They missed a field goal with no time left. I was a big fan of the UF Texas A&M game. The Gators pretty much played perfect. A&M pretty much played perfect, except for one turnover by the Gators, which A&M kicked a field goal with no time left. That was great coaching, great decision-making, great execution. Just didn't go the right way for the Gators that day.
Yeah, I think that the reason that it was low on my list, it was so early in the season. I think it didn't benefit from like third game or something like that. It wasn't. You're right. It was a great game, even though we lost. It was still a great back and forth. And you're like, I think A&M, they throw a pick or fumbled or something like that. And we thought again. I thought that's where we were gonna wrap it up, and then we fumbled. But definitely nail biter, an interesting game. But for me personally, because it was so early, and you have that glaring LSU game, I kind of forgot about it a little bit.
True. And then the other thing that surprised you about my selection was that I didn't have Florida State, North Carolina higher.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, leaving this season, that's the thing FSU's going to hang their hat on, right? Of course.
Right.
But to me, the first half was just pretty much perfect. You had a pick six. You scored 31 points. You even, drive down and score with, a minute plus left in the half to go up 31-3. But as you know, I'm a guy that just says 31-7. Excuse me. I'm a guy that says you got to score in the second half, and we didn't score in the second half. We just held on for dear life after that point. Otherwise, it would have made higher on my list.
Yeah, and interesting because if you had watched any FSU games prior, you're seeing that second half unfold, and you're like, "Oh, FSU is going to lose. This is what they have been doing." Blowing second half leads, and and when UNC had the ball late, I was like, oh, they're going to go down and score and win. I was just convinced they were.
Yeah.
So good job by FSU at the end there to hold on. But yeah, no scoring no points in the second half, not a good thing. Not a good thing.
Yeah, and again with FIU Liberty, I think that was a victim of early in the season. Also, FIU only played 5 or 6 games this year, so. Outside of our show, where we like to highlight them, there just wasn't a lot of national attention because they played so little.
Yeah. Right. Oh, fun.
Man.
Fun time.
You just took me back to the entire season right just then, that one category. I love how we do that. It's awesome. All right. Oh, look at this. I got one more award left. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, good. Great.
I almost forgot I didn't.
Let's dish it out.
The Florida Focus Fresh Face Award. And the reason we call it this is because we can't do like freshman or rookie anymore because we take into account transfers, right, Chris?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I believe all but one of the guys on our list were a transfer. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Let me double check. Well, let's just go through them here, and then I'll tell you.
Okay.
So we had 6 again. It's just sometimes it's just so hard to limit guys down. So.
And by the way, this is first-year freshman or first-year transfer.
Thank you.
Like you're fresh. Just want to clarify. Yeah.
It may not be their first year playing the sport, but it's the first year at the school.
Right.
Yeah. So we have Jalen Robinson. He's a nice wide receiver. He transferred from Oklahoma. Jashawn Corbin, who's a Knowles running back. He transferred from Texas A&M. De'Aaron King, a Canes quarterback, transferred from Houston. Quincy Roche, a Canes defensive end, transferred from Temple. We have Lawrence Tofili. Hey, freshman. Knowles running back. And then Jose Borregales. He made the list. Yes, we already know him. Special teams, he's a kicker, transferred from FIU.
Yeah. And again, Canes, man, they are winning. They won the transfer portal, I think. I mean, there are three of their guys.
Yeah.
Their transfers are on this list and make immediate impacts. And with everything going on and some guys not playing, they needed these guys to step up, and they did. Especially, I mean, you look at the quarterback position; they've had some woes. So you get a guy like De'Aaron King who had his issues at Houston, but you saw the talent.
Mm-hmm.
He transfers over. Then a guy like Borregales in-state transfer, and then I think so. You knew those guys were going to be good, but it's Roche that really stepped out. Like, okay. I was surprised out of those Canes. I was surprised by him the most of how much of an impact he had. And then Corbin, a guy that the passing game for FSU wasn't really there, but there were some bright spots on the running game. Obviously Jordan Travis, but Corbin was one of those guys too, and Toafili as well.
Yeah, so Toafili, Corbin, they really kind of took over after midseason when a lot of wide receiver guys are no longer available for various reasons, and so they became the offense essentially. Borregales already taken away a 1 award tonight. We'll see how he does here. So we know his story. De'Aaron King, and when he was at Houston at 50 touchdowns, so you're like, well, the ceiling is very high for this guy. What can they do? And they brought in some new coaching staff, so they utilized him pretty well. Yeah, I echo what you say with Roche. I also had some questions with him coming from the American Athletic Conference. Can that translate to ACC success? I was wrong that he could not, so he did. And then Jalen Robinson, he was actually a freshman transfer from Oklahoma, a guy I didn't even know about. He just came on pretty early in the season to make an impact.
Yeah, and what an impact he did helping Gabriel out there with the Knights.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let me go ahead and hand you the envelope, sir, and you can do the deed.
Thank you. All right, here we go. Okay, so Florida Focus Podcast, Fresh Face Award, De'Aaron King, quarterback, Miami.
Yeah.
And this guy, I mean, this is one of the easier ones. I mean, I think you can make a case for workouts, but really King, especially from the get-go, when it seemed like just the ACC was playing the first couple of weeks. I mean, he had the spotlight on him. The Canes played some of the big games early, and he was definitely an immediate impact for the Canes and a solid quarterback, which they hadn't had. They've had up and down the quarterback position for a while, but him coming in there, not only his arms but his legs, and really getting the Canes early on that spark they needed.
Yes. Bringing him in, he was instantly making the Canes a 3-win better team.
Mm-hmm.
That is how big of a change it was. And I wasn't totally sold that he'd have the passing attack, and I'm still not there. But as far as like a guy who comes in and first year makes a change, it's no question here. You can talk about Jalen Robinson, who was second on the team in UCF in receiving stats, and the running backs for Florida State, and the other guys that round out the category, but to have De'Aaron King and the change that he made just so quickly and taking the Canes to another level, it wasn't even really that close.
Right. And how about that? The Canes with 2 awards tonight.
There they go.
Look at that.
So they won, fresh face, kicker. They had some guys up there with defense. It's time to translate into some titles there, Canes. You got the talent. Yeah. We all agree.
And I think Clemson might be taking a step back. Now's the time to strike.
Hey, man, it may be the beginning of the end. You're right. Yeah. Absolutely.
You got to be excited if you're a Hurricane.
Yeah, especially after all these awards you've won. Goodness gracious. Yeah.
And these are the awards that count the most. So.
I mean, totally undersold. And, man, this trophy here I'm looking at, solid plastic gold. I mean, what can I say?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You can't find that at any store.
Yeah, nowhere. Can't find it anywhere. Yeah. Man. Oh, Chris. Well, thank you for giving my early blunder with giving out the envelope a little too early and getting over the excitement. The jitters. I'm sure other hosts can understand where that's coming from. Man, I always love this show. It always reminds me how great of a season is and just how much talent we have and the great football we have in Florida.
Yes, Florida is still king to me when it comes to Florida and I mean to talent in football. And you got your Californias, your Texas, Georgia, whatever, but it's Florida. Florida has the talent, and you're seeing that high school, college, and pro level.
Yep, absolutely. For our loyal listeners, thank you so much, number one. Number two, you're going to notice that we're going to slightly vary the awards every year. So, like we've had some other categories that we've retired or may bring back later, like best coach of the year, things like that. Right. You can probably count on the offense, defense, special teams, but you never know. We may mix it up. Basically, we want to spotlight and highlight the teams and the position players that made the biggest impact. So from year to year, that may change a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. I like to keep it fresh. Ooh. Keep it moving. We don't want to stay still because you're going to get a beat on us. We got to keep it moving. Tough to hit a moving target,
You know it. Yeah. Oh, hang on one second. Chris, my jacket pocket here. Hang on.
Oh, what's that?
I have one more envelope.
Okay, whoa. A surprise.
Look at this. Best co-host of the year, Chris Radcliffe.
No way.
Yes, it's true.
Me?
Look at all the support. I want, on behalf of Chris, I want to thank the audience. Okay. On behalf of Chris, I want to say, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I had better picks than Brandon. On behalf of the fan base, I want to say that, I know people like me better, but I appreciate you tolerating Brandon. No, I'm kidding. In all seriousness, thanks, man. It's a great show, and it's because of you, and I appreciate the support and you putting up with my antics and my little quips and quotes and little tangents. It can be a lot, and you handle it right in stride. You don't even pause. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, my friend. And yeah, I'll just say your quotes and antics. I'm right up there with you, right up there. But nah, it was real fun to co-host with you again for our third season. Looking forward to number 4.
Yeah.
And thank you very much. I'm gonna put this over the fireplace.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Don't let it catch on fire.
I'm gonna go build a fireplace first. Then I'm gonna put that on there. So, yeah.
Awesome. Again, thanks. Chris, just remind the fans how they can give us their feedback or where they thought we missed on the awards, or if they wanted to send us comments on why you're the best co-host, where they can do that.
Go to FloridaFocusPodcast.com.
Yes.
And that is it, the Central Hub. You got previous episodes. You can contact us. And yes, we'd love to hear what you think. And are there people we're missing? Do you want to nominate other co-hosts? You can. I know a guy. Qualified. So yeah. So FloridaFocusPodcast.com.
Yes, absolutely. So whatever your preferred, think in your mind, how do I like to reach out to people? It's on the website. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for your listenership. To the fan base, we look forward to your feedback. I want to go and close it out here, Chris. And let me just ask this first. Is there anything else you want to add before we sign off for pretty much the end of the 2020 season?
That is it.
All right.
Glad we had it. Okay,
yeah.
I was wrong. I'm glad we had it.
Yes, absolutely. How can I skip that? Absolutely.
Nah.
Yeah. But this is Brandon saying go Noles.
It's Chris. Go Gators.